Hi again. I was just watching some of the footage of the Extinction Rebellion stuff, particularly in London yesterday, and it really is time for us to have finally. It's been parodied in the past by people like Rick Mail in the Young Ones to have a discussion about just what kind of people are drawn to activism. Now, there are, from what I can tell, there are three people who are drawn to activism. The first are sincere people, and this video is not about them. And when I say sincere, they have been the victims of an industrial accident. They're genuinely worried about things like fracking being set up in their communities. They're driven by a desire to protect themselves and their families. Unfortunately, they are the smallest number of activists, and the reason for this is they the sincere ones will never get the proper media, and human beings, what they are, mostly, morons, meat golems, will never support a genuine activist. They'll always call them a nutcase and things like that. Then there's the second type of activist. These are the attention seekers, and they also generally have a messianic or a god complex. They believe that they're so special and so great that they're going to change the world. They're going to change the world, and they will make sure, they're the types that they could be something as small as getting a stop sign put at the end of their street at a council meeting, and then clipping out the article mentioning them and the stop sign in the local newspaper, that fifth, and then framing it in their living room and showing it to everybody. From that to this lunatic that was covered in the Daily Mail yesterday, who was pretending to cry underneath beside the wheels of a car, and then took out a photograph, and on cue, in some of the worst acting I've ever seen, starts pretending to be crying because he's worried about his two children being killed by climate change. He was a real father at home, teaching his kids how to adapt into a society that produces lunatics like him and fakes. Now, the third group, and this is the ones who control activism because of their social and affluence status, they're the ones who get all the media. And I'm talking about the likes of Occupy and especially Extinction Rebellion. Extinction Rebellion are also byproducts of things like People Before Profit and the Socialist Workers' Party. In fact, there's been a dissident movement happen. Well, there's the movement. Soros money was obviously handed over to a bunch of regular sort of posh socialists in Ireland who've all jumped ship and now are promoting climate issue and gender equality. So they don't care about working class people anymore. Now, so that's Soros money that's been handed over to somebody. Now let's talk about the Extinction Rebellion types. Now, let me talk about a personal experience I had at one of these champagne socialists. Let's talk about them. Champagne wouldn't even cover it. The yachts in the Mediterranean socialists, luxury yachts in the Mediterranean socialists. A few years ago, I came into contact with one woman who was from a left wing group in England, and she was absolutely repugnant. She was one of the most horrible human beings I ever met, and she was literally a royalty. She was like the third Baronet of Hampshire, and she was very involved in left wing politics. But just for the sake of it, one of the things she was obsessed with the Islamic thing and Muslims being oppressed, to the point where she took part in a campaign to have the Hindu holiday of Holi stopped because the swastikas used were Nazi symbols. This is what you're dealing with. Now, she eventually died in a psychiatric hospital, quite young. I think she was early 50s. And if you go to her, she died, and she still left her. I don't know what happened, the details. She might have been sick or something before that. But if you go to her page, and she was big into veganism and everything. If you go to her Facebook page, there's no updates on it. And in a sense of that, nobody wrote "missing you, so sad to hear you're gone." All her lefty friends just didn't give a fuck when she died. because she was no use to them anymore. And she obviously had no friends in real life, because there was the only people, there was nobody there, not one person to say, we miss you, or it's so sad to see you passed away. And that's very telling. And you could say that's very sad, but it wasn't sad, because she was pure poison, pure poison. Now, uh, she had also been involved in a case with some guy where she made a false accusation of rape against him, and that's probably what was her undoing, because he took her to court, and she went she ended up I think she actually said she was mentally unstable or something, so she might, in order to get away with being charged for false accusations, but she might have even committed I don't know, I just don't know how she passed on, but I know she's dead because I saw the death notice. Now, the she was typical of what I'm talking about here. She came from she was basically raised in an English country stately home in the home counties. And these are the types who are at the center of Extinction Rebellion. It's been covered by online journals such as Spike very well, and even Tatler magazine, which is devoted to these types, talking about how it's fashionable to join extinction and climate activism among the upper classes. These are people who, there will be Extinction Rebellion today, but last summer they would have been sitting in Sloane Park in London drinking Pimm's number ones and, most expensive champagnes you could buy. That's Benny looking for attention again. And yes, these people are not right. Can you stop, Benny? Good boy. Good boy, Benny. Stop. Thank you. These people are not right in the head in lots of ways, and there's numerous reasons for this. With some of them, it's their families profited from things like the slave trade, or they had. This is why so many, when the Black Lives Matter ones were all arrested for stopping flights at the City of London airport, they all had names like Penelope Radcliffe Pugh and Ebenezer Higglebottom Squeeze and things like this. Stupid triple barrel aristocratic names, and then they did profiles of them in the paper, and they all went to like the top colleges and private schools, and they had jobs like they had unlimited income. They did all stupid jobs like they were working as activists, and this kind of thing. And they this is their family were involved in the opium trade, in the slave trade, in things like colonialism. Grandpapa on the colonies was his diplomatic attaché, these types. And this brings up another aspect to it as well. A lot of these families have psychiatric disorders caused by consanguinity, which is inbreeding, and also what affects, like what they say, hillbillies and stuff and Appalachians, they've actually got that even more. And also, hereditary STD is picked up in foreign climates from having sex with the young African boy, the young Zulu boy. I pleasured myself in him in the Transvaal back in 1924. This type of thing, and they picked up or spread. See, a lot of them would have spread diseases to their STDs too, because they would have picked up all these STDs at their private clubs and all these brothels they go visit back in London, and would have spread it to poor natives in Africa and stuff like that, in sub-Saharan Africa and in the West Indies and wherever they had colonies. At the same time too, these STDs are also hereditary and they're passed on through the generations. So Lady Fitzroy Spigleton Pugh, the third Baronet of Hampshire, she has these like DNA hereditary things like gonorrhea and syphilis tearing her mind to sunder, and God knows what else. Plus, also these things have been passed on through generations through epigenetics. So that's another reason why I like this as well. And I'm not going to go into why they all love Extinction Rebellion, but it's all about Big Green. There's another video, you see in the video below, on Big Green. It's their money, their future, their trust funds, and they're also determined to reduce the population of the middle class, because there's more middle class there is, the less money there is for them. And there's also another kind of protest. There's really four. We'll call these a subset of number two. And these are ones who just go because they think they have to. There was a picture posted yesterday of people holding Extinction Rebellion flags inside McDonald's ordering cheeseburgers and fries. They don't know what the cause is about. They just have to be there. They just have to go. A lot of these would be in universities or secondaries or high schools where their parents, school teachers give them flags and tell them to march, and they make them to bump up the numbers. I've seen this myself done at these well-funded Soros type things. These would be the real crisis actors in society in these things. These are real genuine crisis actors that are out there doing this, and they're paid. They're not paid, but they get a day off work if they're a civil servant. They get a day off university if they're a student, or a day off school if they're in secondary school, and so they're indirectly paid through the taxpayers. We're funding them. And that's really what this Extinction Rebellion is about. All those posh people you saw there yesterday, I'm terribly concerned about climate change, socialism is the way forward, and all this time. Their skulls are saturated in syphilis worms passed on by, Grandpapa Quentin in the Transvaal, this kind of thing. And consanguinity for inbreeding, because what bodily fluids are exchanged in Sloane Park in London stay in Sloane Park in London, except if they have sex with their servants and stuff like that, and they just disown them and leave them to die. And this kind of thing, or the young boys like that they bring to their parties and they beat to death and things like this during S&M parties before they go out campaigning for the rights of poor people in Africa. Well, they're torturing and destroying the ones in their own country. They don't care about anybody. The ones Black Lives Matter ones don't care about anyone. I'm not the black people in Black Lives Matter. I'm not the white rich people in Black Lives Matter. That's just virtual. That's like almost like it's the virtual signaling version of having swan's eggs for breakfast, and swan for dinner. That's what that is. And you even had like Prince Harry showing up at an exclusive luxury resort in Sicily in bare feet, because he's really earthy and he's really connected, and to say he can't sleep at night because of the changes to the Earth's climate. If again, if there's genuinely environmental issues, these people are not doing it for that reason. This is big green. If they really cared about the environment, they would. Well, talk about the big green, how bad wind turbines are. If you couldn't make a machine that was more suited to the waste of hydrocarbons than a wind turbine, you just couldn't. Between the carbon fibers, the production of them, then how are they going to get rid of them? There's no way to dispose of them. And so there you have it. You have that do not pay any attention to these Extinction Rebellion people in terms of supporting them or believing them. This photograph you'll see on the thumbnail here of this guy doing his acting, another crisis actor, pretending to care about his kids. And if he's sincere in doing this, these kind of fellows are dangerous too. I would have social service check out the kids, because this is usually a compensatory thing. If he's an alcoholic father will go around, he neglected his, when alcoholic parents have kids who are in rags, and then they go around saying, I'm a wonderful parent, I'm a perfect parent, and all this kind of thing. That's the upper middle class version of that. So social services really have a look at this guy. Well, this is the role model for your children. No wonder his wife was probably like having sex with some other guy at home while he's out protesting. And that's allegedly. I'm just joking. That's a joke. But yeah, that's basically what activism is about. Hysteria among the meat golems, which would be a subset of part 2, which is people doing it for attention. Look at me. Number 1, the genuine activists who the BBC won't care. When was the last time you saw the BBC at a fracking protest, something that is truly horrible, or protesting a wind turbine? But it's all posh people protesting the loss of a snail in Borneo due to climate change. The mass media are all over them, and that really tells you who they put on television. They don't put you and me on television. They put their own kind on television, because Grandpapa Quentin has been replaced by cousin Basil, who's the head of news at the BBC, and and this the Guardian and all these sort of posh outlets, and so that's it. Be wary, choose your activists well, or carefully.